And this is GTFO Live. We are members of the Golden Triangle Freethinkers organization. I'm Jerry Mandarin. Over there in the shades is Mr. Will Messier.
Hello.
And we have today with us Josh. Oh, that's Vic, by the way. This is Josh right here. Say hi to Josh, everyone. And our own Vic Demented running the board over there. And center that camera from Vic a little bit. It's a little bit off.
I am a little bit off.
Well, way off. But we, as I said, we're members of the Golden Triangle Freethinkers organization, a little freethinker group here in Southeast Texas. We are going to continue this week discussing what exactly happened last week at Kountze ISD. Shall I go into a recap of the whole thing, or do we all want to start from the same page?
Maybe an abridged version.
Abridged version. People are screwed up. There, it's done. This started because the Kountze varsity cheerleaders were holding up little paper signs for the football team to run through as they started the game. These signs contained biblical verse, and overtly Christian biblical verse saying, "We trust Jesus," yada, 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 yada. Very centered on one particular religion. The Freedom from Religion Foundation caught wind of this, wrote a letter to the superintendent of the district saying, "You're breaking the law."
Breaking the law.
The superintendent got legal consultation from his own district attorney and from the attorneys over at the Texas Association of School Boards, and they told him to stop. He decided that'd be a good idea, so he put a stop to it. The cheerleaders, via their parents, sued and got a temporary restraining order against the Kountze ISD so that they can continue to hold up their signs until at least this Thursday.
Pissed off Christian!
Like that. They were very
100%.
pissed off. They were very pissed off.
And you can hear it in the volume.
But the assertion is that this is clearly, these signs are clearly against the law, and they
Clearly
will
sectarian.
clearly sectarian, clearly proselytizing,
Oh, absolutely.
and they wanted to the district wanted to stop because they didn't want to get dragged into court. They're getting dragged into court anyway now, but they didn't want to make a huge deal out of this by breaking the law according to what the Supreme Court has set up as case law. So that's where it stands. There is another hearing on this subject this Thursday. I think it's going to be in the same courtroom at Hardin County Courthouse.
Oh,
I think that was Judge Thomas, if I'm not mistaken.
Tomas.
And that'll be this Thursday the 4th. That will be the temporary injunction hearing to see whether or not they're granted a temporary injunction. But the district gets to argue their side this time.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't get to last time. Last time was a temporary
Restraining order, right.
Right. This
Very
time,
one-sided.
yeah, it's an emergency hearing basically to say there's a possibility someone's having their constitutional rights violated. We should restrict that. So this time there will actually be some argumentation. So that's where it stands as of right now. Waiting till Thursday. Kountze, by the way, apparently did bring out one of their religious signs on this past Friday night, in their game at Hardin ISD. Hardin ISD. So they did follow through on their promise to continue with the signs.
And apparently their homecoming is next weekend, correct?
Apparently
this Friday. I think that's, according to their football schedule, which was posted on the page.
Oh, okay.
It's apparently this Friday, and that's going to be a big hullabaloo, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So be on the lookout for that. I haven't heard of any more school districts kind of really getting involved in this. I didn't know.
Nederland.
What did they do?
I know that a bunch of students and parents are up in arms about it. They're doing the whole Sea of Red thing where they're wearing different red shirts with some kind of support the Lions thing on it.
They played their game at Viter this Friday.
Yeah.
And did they do anything there?
I'm not aware. I haven't. I just saw it within the first couple of days of everything going down. That's what occurred.
Yeah, I haven't heard. I know that there was a few games I heard of where nothing really happened. Nobody was really wearing red. Nobody was, but I haven't heard anything by far from all of the high school games on Friday night. What happened?
There was no prayer at one school, from what I heard.
Which one?
Silsby ISD.
Silsby did not have a prayer.
No
Okay.
prayer. That's good.
And if I'm remembering that correctly,
I also heard that Buna did not have
Buna.
a religious sign or prayer.
yeah,
I
nothing.
heard that Beaumont did have a moment of silence, but their moment of silence was related to a school counselor that had passed away recently.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Which is totally, I mean, a moment of silence is non-sectarian.
there was some. I think there was some question about that in one case, whether
Yeah.
or not. In this case, though, it was about it was for a memorial in memoriam. So I don't think that one's necessarily crossing the line.
Yeah, sure.
But it was a non-sectarian moment of silence.
Now, we do have evidence of other schools doing these religious signs. I have some of these pulled up right here, if we can get a look at those in a second. But this one in particular is from Bossier City, Louisiana.
Oh, okay.
right
This
next
is
to the street.
It's
a
close by.
Yeah.
now, these are all pictures that are posted in a group about this particular thing. And you can see here, what does it say?
All that you can be.
Be on your something. Stand firm. It's in Proverbs anyway. The quote is.
You might just increase your zoom a little bit on those.
Yeah, some of those I'm going to have to. These are, this is Buna. Now, this is the high school band, and even in the picture, you can't really make out what the signs say, but they're scripture. This one's Hebrews 11-something, making it sectarian in nature. And I would say
and
that
they're representing
their
the school.
whole- yeah, they
I mean,
are-
this is different than if the students inside the in the stands, they're just part of the student body in general. They're out there holding signs. That's perfectly okay.
But these are band members.
These are band members
represent the
in
school.
uniform
Yeah.
representing the school. They're basically compelling the school to endorse their speech.
Now that's interesting because I hear from friends of mine who played marching band that there were very strict regulations on what they could or
Absolutely.
could not do while they were at a game in uniform.
And who was the one making those regulations?
That would be the school.
yeah.
Well, wait a second. That doesn't make sense because I've heard here that the school doesn't have rights to infringe on the free speech of anyone, no matter if they're in uniform or not. I mean, a
not true.
student,
That's
as long
not
as they're
correct.
not interfering with the classroom, they can do whatever they want, right?
Or causing an immediate
Yeah,
chaos, I
that's
think
not
is how it
correct.
was
Actually,
worded for
there's
me.
Yep.
as we mentioned before, there is case history to say otherwise on that.
Yeah, the school won't. If the girls wanted to put on the banner, party at Wendy's house tonight. We're going to be drinking lots of beer and smoking some weed and
It would've
just
been
having a blast.
They would have shit themselves.
They would have said no. You're not allowed to do that. The school would have restricted their speech.
And said that violates
Their
policy.
because that proves that the girls do not have free speech. They're there to work within the confines that the school sets up. So they don't go onto the field with the presumption that they have free speech. They never once do that. They know when they go out on that field, there's certain rules that they must apply to,
Yeah.
that they must adhere to, and they do. They adhere to those rules all the time because they don't say anything that would be offensive in any other case.
No, they don't.
And you don't hear of it. I mean,
You don't
really
hear of
don't
it,
hear
but
of it.
it's okay though. We're going to talk about religion. Then now free speech matters.
Yeah.
If I'm preventing you from saying anything else, free speech doesn't really matter. But whenever it's religion, we're going to
Yeah,
make a big
I
deal.
mean,
about
Well,
it.
you see on the other side of the board, even when I was in high school, if we were seen in any photos anywhere wearing a shirt from the high school,
Right.
not even in uniform representing the school at that
With the
point,
logo or
logo
whatever.
of the school,
Yeah.
and someone was caught with a beer in their hand or something, we were called to the office and spoken to pretty abruptly.
And as you
if
would
someone-
if you
and-
worked in a company and
exactly,
you were
it's
representing
just-
that
yeah.
company, same thing.
Yeah. So, and you wouldn't expect if one of these cheerleaders had a bad breakup recently and put on the sign, "Jacob Johnson can burn in hell." That probably would not fly. Even though that's her free speech.
So let's Will.
That's her free speech.
Will's put up the picture of some more scripture here that we think. This is an example of some scripture that we would like to see, but we think that the school would definitely, along with all the other members of that Christian group, would find offensive.
This is Futon City High, right out of Texas here.
Oh yeah.
And they thought it'd be a good idea to put a quote from Ezekiel, which is one of my favorite books of the Bible, by the way. And now,
what does it say there?
Well, for she doted upon their paramours.
That's multiple lovers.
Absolutely, whose flesh is as the flesh of asses, and whose issue is like the issue of horses. Ezekiel 23:20.
I think they could have found a better translation of that.
Yeah. Some of the translations.
That's a little vague.
Yeah, I mean, what do they mean by asses?
I mean, it's talking about donkey dick.
What do they mean?
Yeah, I know, but it
totally.
could have been. It could have been, and the size too. By the way, you're talking about the size. Yeah. But they're saying the fleshes of asses is like just maybe an ass guy.
No. Well, it could be, which is kind of could be
Or ass girl.
Ass girl.
Some girls
somebody
like
who's somebody's got an ass fetish.
Yeah.
Or it could
For
be
sure.
donkey, like
And whose issue is like the issue of horses.
Well, no, that's exactly what the scripture actually says.
The issue is like the issue of horses.
Yeah.
I've never read a copy of Horses magazine, so I don't know what that is.
I haven't met a whole lot of horses with issues.
It's a compelling read. Actually, you should pick up a
Pick up
copy.
an issue of Horses.
Horses magazine.
Horse Monthly. Yeah.
Horse Monthly.
This is brought to you by Mane and Saddle shampoo or whatever.
Mane and tail.
Mane and tail.
It's Mane and Tail. There it is. Yeah.
Mane and tail.
And
the
the stuff just keeps coming as far as the Facebook support for this group here.
After reading that last verse, don't say keeps coming.
This is my apologies. This is from Kountze. Hung this up at the homecoming prep rally.
So you don't say hung after that last verse.
In the gym. This is in the gym of their high school. And as you can see, immediately violating the sectarian nature of the Establishment Clause.
With God. Look at this. This is with God. That's it's kind of.
But what about to the non-believing
What does it say?
kids?
Well, no, exactly.
Right.
I mean, that's where it gets kind of weird.
Yeah, I'm going to make that argument because I think that we're right in that. And
I think so too.
And if you feel like you disagree, remember you can Skype us at GTFOTx.
Yeah.
Skype us in. We're waiting. We got a couple of guys that want to Skype us in, but they haven't yet. What's up with that?
Do it. Skype it. GTFOTx.
Do it.
Come on, you're going to love this. Now, what does that verse say? I can't quite read.
He's not even
that.
online.
Well,
he was full of crap when he said he was going to Skype us.
Yeah, he's not going to do it. He's not going to do
Come
it.
on, B.
He's not going to do it.
Come on,
Liar.
B. It says, with
He's
God,
not
we will
gonna do it.
gain the victory, and He will give us strength.
So is God the running back?
I think so.
Yes.
I think he's more of a tight end, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Ooh.
definitely.
Tight end.
Ooh.
Yeah,
He's a-
see?
ooh.
If Richard Simmons had his way, he'd be a tight
Tight
end.
end.
That's for sure.
And Muhammad is the wide receiver.
Allah Akbar.
Happy Blaspheme Day.
I just,
Yeah,
I,
it is
I-
Blaspheme
happy
Day, isn't it?
Blaspheme Day,
Yeah.
everybody.
It is. What a fitting day for us to be covering this
Do
subject.
I do
Jesus
anything
was not
but
divine.
Do any of us here do anything but blaspheme? Does it really, should there really be a special day set aside
What
for
is
us?
a butt
Hey,
blaspheme?
But blaspheme. Well,
I worship God. In all His
last time I
glory.
ate chili, there was a butt blaspheme. So-
I appreciate your worship.
Yeah. I worship Vic in all of His glory. Yeah.
But
nice
yeah,
of
I think God's on special teams.
He's got a special shoe to kick.
We got Brandon coming in here. Hold on.
Let's see if this works. Hopefully it does. Hello, Brandon.
Hey,
Hey,
what's up?
how are we?
All right, I can't see y'all. I can hear you though. Can y'all see me or anything?
I can see your chin beard there.
That's it.
Almost. Well,
It's our fault.
it's
not
our
your-
fault. Yeah, we kind of have. We're just getting this going.
And
here.
I hope that's your chin we're looking at.
Yeah.
Oh, is it too close?
No, you should be.
No,
fine.
you're fine.
It's on our end anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
While we're
I
while,
was listening,
go ahead.
but I was listening, and I heard the dare that I wasn't going to call in. I was just listening. I was waiting for a question that I
It worked.
wanted to call in
It
on.
worked.
Well, good. We're glad you called in for sure. So we're going to be combining Facebook with Skype. We're going to have many different outlets going here. So while we have you, we have this comment that just came onto our Facebook page, which is GTFO Live. You can comment. You can give us questions. You can send us your opinions. Go ahead and like the page. Remember, GTFO Live. So this one comes in. Any thoughts on the comments made by Mike Johnson, attorney for the Liberty Institute, this morning on Fox? Anyone watch it? They won 99% of similar cases. There's a quote, sometimes with free speech you hear things you may not want to hear. So do we have any thoughts?
99% of similar cases. How many cases can they claim that they've actually tried?
99% of the ones he wants to talk about.
Well, yeah.
Exactly.
I think that's more of a likely scenario.
Well, we do have the Greg Abbott case, right, which is in Austin, where they
there's no
actually
case there.
Well, they did take it to court, didn't they, where they could keep the Ten Commandments
It kept getting bounced around and kicked back down to the lower courts. It never was settled. The constitutionality of anything was never settled in that case. And they finally came to an agreement. There was no real argument of constitutionality, no opinion, no winning opinion. What's what I'm looking for?
There was no ruling.
No majority opinion, no dissenting opinion. There was no ruling. No.
Okay. All right. So I guess.
And then the other case he listed was from 1952.
Yeah, I had one person try to throw that from 1969, and completely ignored the ruling in 2000.
Yeah.
Oh, I had someone quote something from 1890 something.
Yeah, that's what I told the guy. I said, look, if you go back, he's like, this is a strong case for students having free speech in school. And I was like, yeah, if you keep going back further, you might actually be able to make a case for segregation. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a Supreme Court ruling.
The
Jim Crow laws were a Supreme Court ruling.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't think he has much of a leg to stand on there.
So, Brandon, you're for this particular thing. Go ahead and I guess lay it. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, with the Ezekiel quote. Now go ahead and explain to us the other side, since you are obviously a representative of the other opinion.
Well, I like, I'd much rather see things like this than what's normally on those banners, or the violence that's promoted on them.
For example,
nobody says anything about that.
For example,
I think that adds to the vicious rivalries between schools. And I remember when I was in school, they would meet after school, big groups of kids to fight and things like that. And I experienced being threatened just for walking through the wrong town with a wrong letter jacket on, stuff like that. But those things feed to the violence of those rivalries. And
Brandon, wait, Brandon. I told you you're not supposed to walk through Crenshaw with a red Bridge City letter jacket.
I was walking through Needland with a P&G jacket on. I don't think it was quite Crenshaw, but
well, it's East Texas Crenshaw.
Yeah. But I heard one of you. I think it was Vic a minute ago mentioned something about with it being scriptures on there. That's seen to be as proselytizing.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Is that correct?
I said that. Yeah.
And that's
out of their own.
Oh,
mouth,
that would be Jerry that said that. But go ahead.
Okay, I figured it was one of y'all. I mean, I couldn't remember which one. That would mean that any scripture out of the Bible would be a proselytizing scripture, and that the first one that was posted and the second one that was posted aren't for proselytizing. Those are for people that happen to believe that religion.
No,
already,
it's not. It's not.
It
Brandon, it's not who it's intended for. Who the intended audience is whenever you're reading the Bible is irrelevant. If whatever you interpreted that passage also to mean, whether that's related to just people who are telling people to go out and witness and do all that stuff. If you're saying that you have a God, the creator of the universe, that is giving you power to do these things to win these games. If you're saying this, and the school, just forget about the cheerleaders for a second, and just think of it this way. Let's say that the school was telling students that, you know, if you have Jesus Christ, if you believe in Jesus Christ, then you will have strength to win this game.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. I see what you're saying.
What do you think would be the reaction to someone, for a student who is not Christian, hearing that from the school?
They, like I said, they think it's nothing more than a fortune cookie.
No, they don't. They don't actually think that, because you're basically telling them. You can say that it from your perspective that it's just like reading a fortune cookie, but if you're taking away the authority that the school has, the school carries with it, in saying that, they're teenagers, all the way down to first graders. I mean, what age is okay for you? I mean, would it be okay for you to send your kid to a school and have the school tell your third grade daughters that Allah is the only way that you can pass this course, or you can be successful is if you
follow the teachings
of Allah in the Quran.
Well, that's where, yeah, that's where I think a lot of the misunderstanding is between us on it is
answer that question. In the third grade, would you oppose a school that told your daughter that the only way she can be successful is through the teaching?
That's what I was going to say. I mean, I was going to answer it in that, and you're saying the school saying it.
Yeah.
Now I know you're saying that the kids.
We'll deal with whether or not the school is saying it later. I just want to get past, if the school said it, what would be your reaction?
The school themselves aren't supposed to teach my kids.
We'll get to whether or not the school. We'll deal with the issue with the cheerleaders in a second. If your daughter came home and you found out that the teacher of your daughter's class said this to her, and then she complained to the principal, and the principal said, but it's true, so the full authority of the school is behind this statement, what would be your reaction? Would you oppose it or would you support it?
No, I would oppose it because she's hired by the school.
Because she's hired?
The teacher, yes.
What if she? Why does the hiring matter? Does it matter what if she's there as a volunteer teacher? Is it okay for her to do it then?
She's still hired by the school.
No, she's not getting paid. What do you mean hired? What does hired mean? Hired means
like
nothing, but she's representing the student. That's the only thing that means.
Say she's a teacher's aide.
She's a teacher's aide. Yeah, it's completely voluntary.
It could be a parent aide of a teacher's, which
be a student
happens.
well.
Yeah,
It could be a student from another school.
No, another student talking to
you got to be real careful with Brandon. You got to be real careful with him because
a student acting as a teacher's aide.
I know, but if you give him any room, he's going to jump on that and deflect and not answer the question. The fact a teacher's aide. How about this? A teacher's aide.
Another student.
No, I know you would jump into that. We'll get to that in a second. But I'm talking about a teacher's aide that's not paid, not hired. She's a volunteer that's coming into the school.
A teacher's aide.
Yeah.
That's
in the class
teaching my kids.
Yeah.
That's the same thing as a teacher.
Yeah, it is. It carries the same authority. Yeah.
And it's the same. No, it's the same as the teacher. It's the same as that hired teacher.
It's the same as the hired teacher, but the point is the hiring doesn't matter whether they're hired or whether they're voluntary. It doesn't matter.
You have elected government officials and you have hired.
No. I'm just telling you, it doesn't matter. You just said you would oppose it if it was a teacher's aide, regardless of the fact she's not hired. If she's not hired, then the hiring part is irrelevant. Right?
It's just whether authority is the teacher
exactly.
Over my kids.
Exactly. She has the same authority. The hiring doesn't matter. The authority matters. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you would oppose it, and I would oppose it on the same reason that the teacher's aide carries the same authority that a teacher does. She speaks on behalf of the school.
Okay.
And your daughter would be more impressed by that or she's going to at least that's going to go into she's going to take that into.
She'd probably be more inclined to reject it coming from an authority figure.
Well, I mean, but some kids aren't. They're more inclined to accept it.
impressionable,
I reject it by default anyway. But there are other kids that don't. They tend to look at the authority figures and
Put more weight on it.
yeah, of course they do.
Well,
Even if they
that's-
do
it's
reject
something that
it.
they come home and they talk to me about, and then I give them my opinion on it.
Oh, really? So every student, every kid does the same thing that your kid does, and every parent takes the same level of interest or has the same amount of time to dedicate to recognize that this is going on and be able to respond accordingly. No, they don't.
No, probably not. No.
Probably not. So it's not. You can't put this in terms of what is Brandon's life. How does it work? And this is how Brandon deals with it. That's why we deal with law, and it's how does it affect anyone? And you can't have, even if it's just one person, you can't not have that one kid being coerced to accept Jesus. Which is, by the way, their intent. You said that those get back to your point about the banners not being proselytizing in nature, but
No, that's not my point. That's your point.
no,
That
you said no. You said that
you said they were, but I don't think they are.
you don't think they are. That's right. You don't think they are proselytizing.
Because the
I believe
Gospels
they are.
proselytizing.
Right, I
Actually,
believe they are, and I'll submit
Well-
that so do the cheerleaders
Yes.
believe that it's proselytizing.
Well, that's what I was going to say because in the interview, one of the first interviews that one
Exactly.
of the news stations did down here, the girl actually said that many kids had been won over to Jesus, had
And
become
they were-
saved because of this.
Because of
these
the-
And
banners.
they weren't talking about it like it was an accident. Whoa, we put these signs up and kids started coming to Jesus. We didn't mean for that to happen. No, that was their intent.
Far be it from me to call a high schooler a liar, but I mean, I'll take her word for it.
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
was admitted by many of the cheerleaders that they had actually all come together close as a group, and some had actually quote come to Jesus.
Yeah.
So the intent was, and they said they spoke about like that, like it's a good thing, like that was their intent.
And what is the point of saying that the creator of the universe can do anything for you at all? You can move mountains if you pray. It's not
any different than I mean, like I said, I was trying to make the point about on a different thread that we were on, that you think it's cowardly when I brought up the explorers and things like that, somebody that's faced with more than they think they can handle on their own, and for them to rely on the creator of the universe to give them strength of protection or whatever, it's cowardly.
No,
But,
that's different. No, hold on. That's different. I didn't say that it's necessarily cowardly. It's that it's not courageous.
That's okay, not courageous. Okay.
Right, because courage is something real, something that you bring, you muster yourself. You don't need.
I thought at the end of that thread you said any explorer that did that was a coward. But anyway, we'll go back and look at that.
Well, no,
later.
any explorer that
But,
needs
so what do you
any explorer
say
that needs
about-
it, if they can't do it on their own, then if I give you a drug, Brandon, if you're too chicken shit to go into a war and fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
You won't go into battle. But I give you a drug, and that drug gives you the power and the strength that you need to go fight that battle. Are you now brave? I mean, would you argue that now? Hey, you took the pill. If you're only brave whenever you've had a few Heinekens, does that really make you brave?
About Obama making the comment that
No, we're changing the subject now.
No, it's about the same thing. That he understands. I forget which president he was quoting, which prior president, when he was faced with a very heavy decision, that a lot of times he hits his knees. So I mean, he prays for guidance on that decision.
Okay.
Whenever he's reached the end of himself, he's reached the end of what he can figure out,
Right.
what he knows, and he looks up.
Yeah. So.
Is he? I mean, is there something wrong with him for doing that?
Yeah.
And is he as much of an idiot as any other Christian that you like?
Well, I never said that you're an idiot for believing in it. I just said it was delusional. An idiot is a statement about intelligence, right? I didn't say that. But yeah, I would say that if he's truly a Christian and truly believes that somehow the creator of the universe is speaking to him and answering his question and guiding him, then that's an issue for me.
Then he didn't know what else to do.
All right.
So that's what he resorted to, and that's the same thing that first scripture that they posted on that banner is dealing with. You do all that you can, having done all to stand, you stand. Like I say, the explorer that 600-700 years ago, 500 years ago, that wanted to set out on the ocean that nobody had been on that he knew of. Of course, he's going to check all of his sails. He's going to make sure he's got enough. I mean, he would be an idiot for just saying, I'm not going to take anything with me. God will let manna drop from heaven. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that
I mean,
would
you
be
do all
pretty
that you think you can do, but when you still think it's a daunting task, some people pray for help or for guidance.
But
or
let me
help with their decisions.
Let me stop you here. Are we comparing high school football to explorers from
Yes.
the 15th
No,
century?
I'm explaining what that scripture means and what that
No,
scripture
we
The
understand.
explorers from the 15th century who got on a boat and didn't know what the hell was on the other side of the water.
Well, no, I mean, I get his point. His point is basically saying that this is what that scripture is about. I'm saying what the scripture is about is irrelevant to me. I don't care what its intent was. I don't care what it even really says, other than the fact that that it says Jesus Christ is giving me power
over you, which also
over you or over any,
Which also kind of gives the implication that Jesus is picking one team over the other.
He's picking one group of
Right.
Christians over.
Yeah.
Right. That's like both sides in a war praying to the same God, and like in a civil war.
Yeah.
The South
well,
lost.
it's both sides are ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't really playing for victory. That scripture was for strength.
Okay, and it didn't do anything. They're both praying for
But
scripture.
they've won every game they've hung a banner at.
Yeah, but have all the kids walked off the field with no injuries?
I don't know about that.
What's the old saying? Causation is not or correlation is not causation.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Has the running backs mysteriously materialized into the end zone?
Exactly.
I mean, has there been anything miraculous that these kids have
How
not
many
done
fumbles-
themselves?
How many fumbles has Kountze been guilty of? I mean, it's just like we were showing earlier. It's not just Kountze, though. I mean, we have it from all over the country at this point. Kids in other states.
And if
even.
every single football team in the nation puts these banners up and makes the football team run through them,
We'll
being
open up
that,
a black hole.
being that Kountze is undefeated, how can we have every single team in the country win?
Sure.
They-
If both
they
teams
couldn't. We
hold
would
up a banner,
either they would
Somebody-
either,
it's
either
a-
it would be proof that God doesn't exist, or a wormhole would be open.
Yeah, one or the other.
I don't know if you have it up, or not, Vic, but we have here. This is High Island, so this isn't very far from the Southeast Texas area. In fact, it's in that
High Island suffers God's wrath on a regular occasion. Anyway.
regular occasion, actually,
Yeah.
every 20 years or so at least. And here you see they have a sectarian banner. Be strong. I can't read it; it's just too small. But you can see the scripture label right down here. We got the guys praying on the field. I mean, this is stamped with the approval of the independent school district, right? Because I'm looking at it. It's on the field. This is even if it's the kid sponsor, they're representing the school.
There are clearly coaches praying as well.
Yeah, you can see them in here. Unless I'm misinterpreting it, this is sectarian in nature.
No, this.
So, Will, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
No.
Well, I can't see y'all, so I don't know if somebody was fixing it.
I said no. No, I'm just joking.
I noticed you didn't make any comment on the video of Obama that I posted. I think it was this morning about him reading out of the book of
Psalms,
Psalms.
Actually, I
haven't
did
had a
comment,
chance.
and then
I
you
haven't
said you
had
were
a
going to
chance to
comment
look
back
at it.
again. Oh, Will hasn't
Will
commented.
hasn't.
No, I haven't.
Okay, because see, I was getting
Will.
ready for
Yeah.
this show, and I still managed to comment. So I don't know what the fuck Will's doing.
Yeah, I had things to do today.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
I didn't even see it, so
I didn't
But
see it.
but
on-
I had nothing to say.
is that wrong in the same way? Do you think for him to do that and constantly?
I'll be
bring
quiet
up-
because I already
mention God,
commented. and since he
constantly.
did, yeah.
is
Well,
this
you
is
know-
it?
Whoa!
Yeah.
Hold on a second. Let me correct him real quick because he keeps saying this. Say that again. Repeat what you just said, Brandon.
Is it you see it just as wrong as these cheerleaders doing it, for him to be constantly mentioning God, constantly professing what religion he follows? Is that him professing one religion over another?
No. First of all,
No.
you used the word
Yeah.
constantly twice, and you use a lot of terms like that. You'll use constantly, or
He does
any-
it a lot,
Hold
but
on,
once
hold
is
on,
too many
hold on.
for you, right?
Hold on. No, again, misrepresenting what I believe.
Okay.
He says, you said that he does it constantly, and you said things like any mention of God, of any God, things like that. Those are very, very broad statements, and I've never said any of those things. And I can tell
was
you right
looking
now
through
that
our thread
Obama
the
does
other day,
not.
trying to find some of them, and I was going to copy.
Right,
some,
I'm-
that's where I had got it from.
And I know that Obama does not constantly mention God. Now, you could understand why he might why he might feel the need to constantly answer critics that say that he's a Muslim, to constantly say, "No, I'm a Christian." But by your own admission, Brandon, he takes extra effort to be inclusive in his speeches. Sometimes he'll just mention Christianity, but sometimes he'll mention Islam. Sometimes he'll mention atheism.
on Rosh Hashanah.
Rosh
Hashanah, and whatever. He just wished the Jewish people a warm
Happy New
holiday
Year.
season. and
Yeah.
all that. I mean, he's just trying to.
He's being a
include
politician.
Everybody, yeah. I mean,
But he's acknowledging groups of people who believe different things. That's different
It's gonna be-
than being the majority opinion in the school and only representing that position, and that's it.
Then what about the video I posted? That was a 9/11 ceremony, and he specifically read out of the Bible.
Was that all he did?
Was that all he did?
Yeah.
I didn't find any more than that. I would have to try to find the
But again,
entire
Brandon,
ceremony.
I'm not looking at this one incident in a vacuum. The fact is that you know it's true. I know it's true. Everybody on this cast knows it's true because we've watched more than one single presentation by Obama.
He's famous for saying, and a lot of right wingers are pissed off about this. He's famous for saying, "This isn't a Christian nation."
Exactly.
But
Well,
the
'cause
total
it's
quote
not.
is it's a Muslim nation,
Yes.
a Jewish nation,
Yes.
a
I know.
Hindu nation.
He goes out of his way
Yeah,
to
he
make
goes
sure
to
that
make it
everyone's
all
included.
inclusive. So
even if in one speech he doesn't get to everybody, that's fine. But he goes out of his way to make sure that everyone is included. That's not the same. That's a false equivalency. What we're talking about.
He read a passage out of the Bible to try to comfort people. I don't see anything wrong with that.
I know, of course you
If
would.
if that would comfort people that believe it, and now I don't know if he had somebody else come out and read out of the Quran, and somebody else come out, somebody else come out and read out of the Old Testament. I don't know.
But again, you're
But
one.
he
I'm not focusing on this
professed his.
one. Okay, let's make it equivalent, Brandon. Let's make it equivalent. We'll take the totality of the Obama administration, any speech that he's ever made referencing religion. Take the totality of what he's ever said, not just one speech, all of them. And let's take the totality of all of these banners that have ever been put up that have religious speech on the banners by the cheerleaders. Now, how many? Which one do you think is going to be more inclusive, Obama or the cheerleaders?
Who should know better if it's
who is
so
more
wrong?
inclusive?
Who should know better if it's so wrong?
He's
The leader
already.
of our
You've
country?
already admitted, Brandon, that he is inclusive. You're just going and finding one.
No, I said he tries
you're
to
finding
be
one
inclusive. He
single.
doesn't mention all religions. How much time would that take?
He does mention them frequently.
Exactly.
Frequently, Jerry just already mentioned one. Where he said
no,
this is,
to mention all of them. All of them.
Did he not say this is a? This is. I mean, he's not going to
This is
mention
a Hindu
all.
nation.
I mean,
This is a Muslim nation. This is a.
So for you, if he's got to mention every single one,
But it is okay for him to mention the faith that he follows, that he believes in.
Considering that he runs for office, yeah, he can mention the faith that he follows. So can these students. They just can't put a sign up on the field representing the entire school as being a Christian school. These students can profess their faith anytime they want to. They just can't represent the school in such a manner. The president...
They can't do it while they're in uniform, though, right?
Correct.
Well, because
I mean, they can't even
the school.
say what faith they follow. They can't talk about
they
their
can't.
religion.
No, they can't. And
Why
I'll tell
would
you
they?
why.
Because what if a Muslim kid had,
Right.
I'm going to behead the non-believers on their Indianette belt. You know, that would directly offend a Christian who follows a different Messiah. When you separate kids in school, all you're doing is creating a division for these kids to further put them into a clique. Oh, well, they're not Christians, so don't
brings up a
press it
different
down.
which brings up a different
But
point.
Obama can say on national television which faith he follows.
He's a
That doesn't
politician
make
who
other
runs
people
for
feel
office. Yeah.
inferior in the other religions.
No, because-
no, we've already discussed this. The totality of his entire statements as a whole, not just viewing this one statement and going, well, that's what he believes, and that's all he believes, and that's what it is. No, as a whole, his entire body of speeches has included such speeches as, this is not a Christian nation. This is a nation of Muslims. This is a nation of Jews. This is a nation of Hindus.
Oh, but I'm
yada,
not,
yada.
yeah, I'm not talking about, though. I'm talking about him professing what he follows and what he believes.
Well, he's kind of a politician. That's part of the job. I mean, it's he has to run for office.
That's right.
It's not. I mean,
It's relevant.
It's a stretch to say that's a violation of the Establishment Clause.
Here, it's relevant to voters.
Well,
It's not relevant.
It is. Unfortunately, it is. But
unfortunately, but it's not relevant to the student body what the beliefs of the cheerleaders are.
Yeah.
For them to do their job, to be a cheerleader, it's not relevant.
Yeah.
Does that go along? I was thinking about something whenever Will posted that picture of the band members in the stands a while ago with the scriptures on the drums or whatever that was.
Right.
I couldn't read them, but does that go along with they wouldn't be able to talk about like politics? What politician they would follow?
No.
What,
No, they
what
wouldn't.
They
purpose
would not.
that
They,
serve,
yeah.
though?
If you got, I mean, I can almost assure you right now that if the students got up and advocated for one particular candidate in whatever election you chose, that sign would be taken down.
The school would reject that.
Yeah, the school would reject
So
that.
those two kind of go hand in hand then.
Well, no, it's not just that. If we kind of discussed this, you may have been before you were listening, but the school, the students that are in uniform, be it band members, cheerleaders, football players, what have you, they're representing the school, and we can demonstrate that real easy because they're not allowed to say just anything they want. Mm-hmm. They're not. They can't go. They can't
like yelling fire in a theater, like you said.
Not just that.
Not just
because
that.
That puts people in danger. They can't say stuff that violates school policy.
I gave the example. What if one of the cheerleaders, the head cheerleader, just had a bad breakup with her boyfriend, and wrote on the banner, "Josh can burn in hell."
Yeah, she wouldn't be allowed to do that.
Fuck that guy.
That would be awesome.
Would they allow that? Would the school allow that? And would the school be wrong for taking that sign down and not allowing that?
No, they would not be wrong, and Brandon knows they wouldn't allow it, right, Brandon?
I wouldn't what?
You know that the school would not allow a banner that says Josh should burn in hell.
Is that the free exercise of her religion?
It doesn't.
It's free
hold on,
exercise.
hold on.
Whoops.
Hold on, we're not talking. We're talking about free speech at this point, Brandon. We're talking. Let's talk about each one individually.
Okay,
Free
what
speech.
if she put a sign up that said, "God said Josh can burn in hell."
The ultimate authority has come down.
Now, God told me Josh should burn in hell. Now, What's the school's position on that?
You'd have to ask them. I don't know.
I know.
No,
What do you think they
Come
do?
on, Brandon. You know what they would say. You know.
You know that they would say no.
It's pretty inflammatory to make that comparison.
Yeah, it is
It
pretty
is.
inflammatory, isn't it?
But the thing is, Brandon, the students that are representing the school are not. They have to work within the confines that the school allows them as far as their speech. They can only say things or do things that the school deems appropriate. They can't. They do not have free speech. They cannot go and write on a banner or have a cheer talking about how Sally's a slut or whatever. The school would say, no, you can't. And they know that. They know that they don't have free speech. So this is not a free speech issue because free speech does not apply to cheerleaders and football players.
But everyone would like to make
Okay,
it a free speech.
so
issue. That's
while
the argument we
Right.
I'd
see.
asked this earlier in the week, so a cheerleader wouldn't be allowed to even wear a cross around her neck.
No, she
Or-
could. How
or
is that?
a hijab around her head, if that's seen as promoting her religion.
Personally, I would ban hijabs. That would be my
Just because
opinion.
of security purposes.
Well,
me.
they don't cover their face. That just covers the hair. But yeah, I mean,
Well, you
Yeah,
can't
just
give
the
a
head
description of that
covered
person.
like a scarf.
yeah, I would ban them because I think it's ridiculous and it leads to the. I mean, you could not argue in favor of a hijab and not argue also in favor of the. Of
That's
the
really,
burqa.
really important to people that believe that, though. They are supposed to keep their head covered when they're in the presence of a male that's not family.
Yeah, I understand
I mean,
that.
that's very, very important.
I understand that,
Well,
but
it's
you
just
know what
like
they do?
But do you
Pentecostals
really
who wear
think-
skirts to games in their band uniforms
and
you know.
trip.
and
Yeah.
trip?
Consistently, I've seen one girl at
Right.
my high
but
school who
they're
tripped
allowed
multiple
to-
times because of
That's
that
a good
skirt.
point that you made
And
about
that's dangerous.
the Pentecostals. They're allowed to do that, and everybody knows what faith they follow when they do that.
Right.
Exactly,
True,
which
but
is-
I mean, I wouldn't exactly call a denim skirt proselytizing, but yeah,
Well, it's borderline.
Well, hold on,
What-
hold on. I you know, this is very important to them. But let's just take a look at what does Turkey do. You know, what's Turkey's position on this? I mean, they have a very significant Muslim population.
yeah,
What do you think's allowed in their schools?
probably jacks because they're a
They're
very
secular.
secular country.
Yeah, nothing.
The government
You're not
itself
allowed
is
to wear.
secular.
You're not allowed to wear a hijab. You're not allowed to wear a burqa. You're not allowed to wear any clothing, visible clothing that religious in nature. That's
Yeah.
religious in nature.
Oh, religious or just Muslim?
No,
religious in any
Yeah.
shape or form.
Yeah, but Turkey's the government itself is extremely secular, and they do
So
everything they
so
can
you
to.
couldn't wear a cross over there?
You could not wear it visibly.
Wow.
Well, let me ask you a question, Brandon. If it's not intent to proselytize, why do you care? If you wear the cross, what is it? Why do you have to have it in
Mark
front of
6:5.
everybody in
I'm
order
sorry,
to?
Matt-
I mean, unless you think you're getting attacked by vampires.
Oh, do you think that the power of the cross doesn't to get past clothing? You know, if you don't have it out in the open.
Well,
then
you are wearing a kind of a cotton
No, I'm not
polyester
wearing
blend.
it to ward off vampires or anything.
Right,
mean power?
but that would be the only reason you would need one. Something
I'm
utilitarian.
proud of my faith. I'm not ashamed of the gospel.
You want to
So-
tell everybody
so
about your faith.
I'm not going to hide who I am and what I believe.
Well, but hold on a second.
And I'm
though.
free to do that in this country.
No, you are, as long as you're not representing a government agency.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, sure, you are.
Well, let me tell you where the courts in this country stand on can you wear a cross to school? Yeah, you can.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
They're making the argument about something it's not.
Yeah,
As
it's
far
not.
as
Kids can wear
cheerleaders
burqas
in
That is
particular
it's,
wearing them,
you can have a cross and not
you're not allowed
cross
to wear
that.
jewelry in the first place.
Pardon the
So
pun,
that's
cross-
not a question.
If the cross has scripture on it,
No.
It
where
doesn't
another
matter.
student can see it.
Yeah, it's a
How
very
big a cross
fine
are we
line there.
talking about here?
That's what I'm
'cause
saying.
at
Are
some
you
point-
expecting a vampire attack?
At some point, it's going to be the cross becomes the distraction, and they would tell you to no, wear a smaller one.
yeah.
Well, you're not allowed to wear jewelry in an athletic event in the first place, so that's kind of it's a non-point at that.
Interesting point.
It's you can't.
Well, I wonder.
schools have
that may be,
already-
is that a school policy thing or
But
is
it
that,
doesn't
at
matter.
every
They're not.
school I've been to.
They don't have free speech, so
Right,
they don't
right,
have a
right,
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 to
right.
do whatever they want.
Well, I got another point here. based on something, Brandon, you said way back about the signs as Scripture are better because they're not as violent and not as provoking. I'm going to argue something different there. Well, I'm going to argue the same thing you're arguing. The signs that say, disembowel the
Non-believers.
that disembowel the bears or, shoot the Indians or whatever. You were making the point earlier that these can be provoking a violence that is not exclusive to the football field and the linemen hitting each other, correct?
Right.
Okay, so this can lead to...
And that's okay. That's always been okay.
It's okay that they can do that?
Well, he doesn't agree with it.
That's always been seen as okay.
That's always been seen as okay. But you think that it can lead to violence outside the stadium or a sense of tension between the two rival schools that is kind of unacceptable?
It does feed to that violence.
Okay.
Right.
And nobody has a problem with that.
Hold on.
Okay.
Well, no, we're not saying that anyone has a problem with it. Or
No,
I don't
think
they do
it's...
or they don't. We're just trying to get clear what you were saying. You're saying that you think that the Scripture is better because it's better than the alternative, which is the violent, sayings that they used to put on those banners that would cause tension between rival teams. Correct?
Yeah, I would rather something uplifting, something, just encouraging to their own team that's not, saying hang the Bulldogs or scalp the Cowboys
I know what
like
point
that.
Troy's about to make, so I'm going to make another quick point before you get to that one because mine's really fast.
Go ahead.
That they can have an uplifting message that is not religious in nature. There's nothing saying our team's the best or we're the
well, yeah, sure they could. But my point was that all that violence has always been there, and nobody's had anything to say about it. Nobody complains about that.
Well, here's my point that I'm getting at. Do you think this level of provocation, if you take that and make it an uplifting, scriptural message, that this level of provocation won't be between the rival schools, but between the Christian kids and the non-Christian kids? Do you think that same level of influence is there? Because when you start to divide up the classes, when you start to make it sectarian like this, it does become. If any one of these kids that doesn't believe that steps forward and says, please stop putting those messages up, they're going to be brutalized.
Brandon, you need to stop and think. Look at the messages that we see. Look at it from our perspective. What do we see when we're looking on Facebook at the comments in support of these cheerleaders? Think about this from the perspective of a student that's a Muslim or an atheist student, which we talked to a few, and I know that KFDM interviewed some. From their perspective, of course, to you don't think that it's going to cause anybody to be to get upset or to be offended at all, but you're wrong, and if you think for a split second, that any of these students that are holding up these banners are tolerant of non-believers, you're naive, buddy.
Well, they should be challenged on that. They should have some of the students that do believe something else go up to them and ask them to put something encouraging from their.
Yeah, that's real easy for high school students to do. Yeah, that's real.
Great.
Yeah. High school students are the first, especially if you are the lone.
Yeah, if you're the
atheist.
outcast, so what are outcasts known for?
Yeah,
standing up for themselves.
We would have.
Yeah.
Oh, I would have. But again,
Yeah,
what did
we
I
would
say?
have.
What did I say at the beginning of this? Let's not look at this from the way Brandon would handle it, right? You know that there are students out there, and you know there are people out there that wouldn't. That they would just suffer in silence.
Which, by the way, makes that suffering in silence, being forced to suffer in silence, makes the learning environment into a hostile learning environment, which is probably the main reason
why it's illegal.
These kids have to be protected. While we're,
I mean, if just one kid is unable to get an education because of that hostile learning environment, then you've decimated the entire purpose behind the educational system.
sure have.
Well, you've wiped your ass with the Constitution.
Pretty much.
That's the point of the document.
Well, you see so much more in that establishment clause than I do. You always have.
Well, of course,
And
I
know
see
you-
what
you
the
back it up with
court
current-
sees.
with a few current court cases, but I don't see how
no,
that
it goes
much
all
can
the
be
way
read
back.
into that.
No, it
Those
goes all the way
couple
back.
of words.
It goes all the way back to the 70s.
Actually, it goes all the way back to the works of Jefferson.
Well, yeah, that's true too.
Well,
If you read the Jeffersonian,
I don't. I don't. Okay, to say Jefferson's letters to other people, that's
Not
not
just
in,
Jefferson.
a part of the wording of our Constitution.
It's not just Jefferson.
It's just like taking something.
No.
that,
This isn't a
that
part of our.
Harry Reid got into the Constitution.
This isn't a
Amendment
part of our
made,
wording of the Constitution.
But the wording wasn't the way that he liked.
No,
so he wrote a letter to somebody else and said, "This is the way I really would rather it have been written."
No. Jefferson was explaining why things were written the way they were
Yeah,
written. It was
I
a
don't
pretty-
know how he took that
I don't know
letter
where you
and
get that from.
interpreted that.
He described exactly why these things were written, why we have a separation of church and state. He explained it. He's explaining it. He's explaining the wording. It's not, oh, I wish it was worded this way. No, he's explaining what the hell the Establishment Clause means.
It says, "Shall make no law regarding an establishment of religion."
Right. And
Shall
an
make no
establishment
law.
of religion is a state-sponsored religion.
Boom.
But that's not making a law for somebody to say what they personally believe.
What do you think? What do you think happens whenever this case gets to court? What do you think happens whenever the Supreme Court rules on something?
There will be a law put in place.
There's a law. There's a law right now in place.
And by the way, if you're a student in school, in a state school, a public school, the rules that you follow in school are practically what?
The law?
I think so.
That was sly.
No, it's called policy.
Well, policy is still the law.
It's not.
And
and oh, by the way, to make
And different school
absolutely
districts
clear,
have different policies.
hold on, to make it absolutely clear, the Supreme Court actually says law, rule, or policy.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Oh, does it?
yes, it does.
Huh.
Look at
How do you have different
Santa Fe
laws
v.
in the different states?
well, because some
different
laws
states can have different laws.
they can absolutely have different laws, and then someone brings the case to court,
And then it becomes
and then
a federal law.
then then they rule on it. That's why they're in some states, gays are allowed to marry, and in some states they're not, because they have different laws.
And
Why?
it's-
Because the Supreme Court hasn't ruled on it.
It's
When the
the
Supreme
same
Court
as-
rules on it, then it's guess what? It's a law.
Guys, I don't want to take up all the time just going back and forth and not include some of our people who are on the GTFO Live Facebook making comments.
All right.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Miss Sermon says, how is it that people don't get this? I'm a person of faith, and I totally get this. When you are representing something like a school district and you are in uniform, you cannot use that opportunity like a football game to promote your faith. And it does not matter that only one kid may have a problem. You cannot have a majority rule in these matters. If you do, then oppression occurs. And she says, my head hurts from this. She goes on later to say, and it's already been decided that the Pentecostal girl can wear her skirt, the Jew can wear a yarmulke, the Christian can wear a cross, and in recent years that the Native American boys can wear their long braids. Nobody is saying that you can't do these things. A teen girl can doodle I love Jesus on her notebook, but when you represent the school district, you cannot use the district to promote it.
I think as a good practical joke, somebody should come up with a religion that requires its people to wear assless chaps.
That would make an interesting band uniform.
Oh man!
I would
For most of
join
the
that
people in the
religion.
band that I've seen lately, I'm sorry, I don't want to see that. I might have
that
to
would be hilarious.
I might
if
have to
somebody
file
could get
suit.
that done.
to prevent that.
We're going to file a lawsuit to get that.
That would be pushing the boundaries on that. That would be pushing the boundaries in this whole, what they can wear thing.
Another one of our members says, when you live in a podunk town, you learn real quick not to speak up because it won't take much for you to be branded an outcast or a traitor in that school, especially of a town as small as 2,000 people, where obviously most of them are Christian. You're going to be like one kid You know,
Yeah.
at least at these other schools, these secular movements have maybe 5, maybe 10 kids that know each
Right.
other and are in on this.
Right.
But one kid who is offended by this can't go to anyone and
Right.
say, I have an issue with this. This
Well,
is
you
a
can't even
problem."
go to the administration because
No.
the administration is the one that allows this.
And
I
the
remember
one that
going to the
crazy.
administration whenever I had issues in school, and that's what I was met with was, well, it's calling a spade a spade. Really?
Yeah.
All right. But let me read you what this is the endorsement test, right? This is what Sandra O'Connor wrote. The Establishment Clause prohibits government from making adherence to religion relevant in any way to a person standing in the political community. Government can run afoul of that prohibition by endorsement or disapproval of religion. Endorsement sends a message to non-adherents that they are outsiders, not full members of the political community. The proper inquiry under the purpose prong of the Lemon test, I submit, is whether the government intends to convey a message of endorsement or disapproval of religion. And by banning the banners, that action is not endorsement or disapproval. By allowing it, that's endorsement.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So as soon as the question is presented to the school to make a decision, if they allow the banners, they are endorsing it. That's what the Supreme Court has ruled. Now, the Lemon test...
And as
and
good Christians.
these are the things that the Supreme Court will use. If it ever went to the Supreme Court, this is what they will use. But a federal judge, or any judge in their right mind, is going to use the same criteria that the Supreme Court will use to determine this case. And this is the second one. This is the Lemon test. The Lemon test determines whether or not the government agency, be it the school or whoever, the government is infringing on someone's rights. The government action must have secular legislative purpose. Right? And by the way, it has to pass all three of these. The government action must not have the primary effect of either advancing or inhibiting a religion. So by banning the banners, it's secular, and it does not promote or inhibit religion. It's just simply saying we don't want any of it. Okay? And the government's action must not result in an excessive government entanglement with religion. It doesn't. It's only while they are representing the school, not generally. They're saying that in their life they can no longer profess their faith. It's just while you're representing the school. So it passes the Lemon test, and banning the banners also puts them in compliant with the endorsement test. Right, and then the final test,
The final
which I didn't bring up yet.
countdown. You both started in the wrong place for each other.
Yeah. Entirely.
That's on the upbeat, right?
We need filler
The-
music.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Dead air.
Okay, so the coercion test.
I'm waiting on him.
Coercion test is the last one, right? The court found the school district's supervision and control of a high school graduation ceremony places subtle and indirect public and peer pressure on attending students to stand as a group or maintain respectful silence during the invocation and benediction. At a minimum, the Constitution guarantees that government may not coerce anyone to support or participate in religion or its exercise. And by placing this banner on the field with the cheerleaders and the football players, you are by putting it there, you're forcing them to either engage in this activity or not go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think.
So, because I heard, I'm sorry, go ahead.
As I said, I think we would all agree on that.
I don't know about that.
Another one of
Brandon,
the,
what do you?
Well,
let me make this point first. Another one of the comments from the cheerleaders during the interview was, "We're not stopping. No one is objected to it from the football team. Everyone's run
Yeah.
through it. No one's objected to it. No one's
As
walked
long
around
as the
it.
boys, as long as the boys like it, we like it. It's okay.
Well,
What's the big
because
deal? As long
these-
as the boys.
It's all about the boys.
It
because
is all about the
lone-
boys.
The lone atheist or the
But-
one Jewish kid on the team is going to just run around the banner instead and further ostracise himself from everyone else.
Well, because we know, look at what happens in the NFL, right? How many gay NFL players have there been?
To my knowledge, none.
Zero. So statistically, do we believe that that's true?
No.
No.
Not at all.
No.
No.
I think there was actually an NFL player recently who came out as an advocate for gay rights.
Yeah, and he said that himself
Yeah.
that he got ostracized except for the younger players were like, yeah, they came to his defense.
Well, yeah.
But the older ones were kind of, they making jokes about him and stuff like that.
Didn't Ricky Williams come out?
Come out? I don't know if he
Come
came
out of the
out.
closet? I don't know.
don't know.
Somebody told me that. It's not saying nothing bad about
There
him
you
or
go.
anything. Somebody
because
told
of the
me
way
that,
he throws,
Ricky
or-
Williams came out of the
Why do
closet.
you think that?
Is it the inflection in his voice?
Throwing a little limp. Another comment that we got over here, our girl MT. I'm sure the cheerleaders are the popular kids, like in any high school. Those who speak up would probably already be ostracized by that demographic, and any opinions expressed would be quickly dismissed. So
Well,
she's-
dismissed. Well, they dismiss it straight up. They wouldn't
Yeah.
even, and then, but it
Wouldn't
would
even get
But there'd be
place.
reprisals afterwards.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
course.
We know that teenagers, that's self-esteem is not an issue with them, and there's no pressure in high school to
No,
conform.
no.
None whatsoever.
So what's your opinion on a group like the Brave Believers that aren't, in uniform representing the school or anything at the time, but it's a Christian group
If they're a group,
within the school?
extracurricular groups are okay. That's
Yep.
by the law. I mean, because you can have an extracurricular group on anything. As a matter of fact, we know an individual or individuals who are in an extracurricular group devoted toward atheism.
Well,
Secularism, yeah. I mean, but it's
God
extracurricular
bless them
groups.
for it.
They don't meet during school. They don't necessarily represent the school. They are their own little subset inside the school, and that's made obvious by the fact that they are the blank of
But
the
I
school.
mean, but in reality, though, it wouldn't matter if they met in school and in school uniform on school time with over the loudspeaker or whatever. They're secular,
and they are
so they're immune from this endorsement test.
Well, the school
anyway.
the school can't endorse them, and the school is supposed to make it explicitly clear
Well,
they don't
they
endorse.
can.
Well, they allow them.
The only reason that they can't is because they also take a political position as well.
Right.
But if they were a secular group, I don't think that the school should. I don't think you should equate any religious organization to a secular group. A secular group cannot be. If the school endorsed them, how can you violate the Establishment Clause if they're secular? It's not establishing a religion because it's a secular.
Well,
group.
It's the same argument that people make when they say that atheism or being agnostic is a religion.
Right,
when in fact
and that's why
it's-
I'm saying you can't.
But
say
the
that.
school can't appear to endorse if they came out as an atheist group.
It's
the
not
different
an
the divining thing, the divining line there. If they came out as an atheist group, the school absolutely could not endorse them
But an
above all the
agnostic group-
others. But an agnostic group, you think?
Well, I mean, what does it say? It's not adhere. It's not dealing with a religion. It's not endorsing a religion. You'd have to first define atheism as a religion, which you cannot do.
But allowing the Brave Believers group is not endorsing Christianity?
No, the
Because
school,
that's extracurricular and it has nothing to do with
But
the school.
my point being that the schools endorse none of these groups, and they allow these groups on the campus, and they can meet on the campus as long as it's not during school hours. They just allow it. They don't.
They wear T-shirts with Brave Believers on the T-shirt at school.
Well, you can wear. I
While
personally,
they're-
I would say anything with the logo, but that would be, it just depends.
Well, it's in these cases. I mean, you understand too that in these cases, the school takes great gains to separate itself from these groups, and it is clearly not endorsed by the school, despite the fact that they meet on. The
I mean, you
school.
can wear.
you
You
said
can wear
just
it.
I imagine.
allowing
I imagine a T-shirt. I imagine with a T-shirt argument for the Brave Believers has a line crossing capacity at some point.
Yeah, it could. It could be. seen that way.
Yeah.
Depending on what their shirts look like.
Yeah.
If it blurs the line between school endorsement and an individual's extracurricular groups.
Yeah, I don't think there's an absolute on that one. That's you could say, yay to all shirts or nay to all shirts.
But it's absolutely clear that the cheerleaders in uniform and on the field at a school-sponsored event, you can't get away from that.
There's no gray area right there. Now, where he's talking about just the kids wearing the shirts in schools, I mean, it's arguable that those kids are even representing the school while they're just at school. I don't know if.
I don't know what. Personally,
I don't know how that argument would play out.
I don't know what the deal is with religious shirts at school in general. I think that's another one that it's kind of an arbitrary line crossing thing where you have to decide when exactly it crosses the line.
Now I'm going to bring this back up that Will's showing here as an example of what benefit or what are the chances that someone's going to want to come out and demand that a banner be created that represents their religious point of view when you have the community coming out and saying things like this,
like our friend Chuck here,
like Chuck Vincent. Way to go, Greg! And he's defending the Attorney General for his endorsement of the cheerleaders. It's time to put the non-believers in the closet where
they belong.
Where they belong with the what?
With
the queers and fags.
Actually, it says with he queers and fags.
With queers and fags.
Obviously, he has no problem with lesbians.
But she queers and fags are cool. But he queers and fags?
No,
hell no.
So
you son bitch.
It's easy to sit back and view this from an insulated point of view where you are in the preferred group. You're in the Christian majority, and to see, it's not that big of a deal. What's the big deal? I mean, come on,
Why don't they just come out and say something?
Why don't they just come out and say something?
I was actually going to ask that question to Will, and somebody else said something about being a majority opinion or a majority view. Is it only because it's the majority opinion that it's a problem?
Not necessarily, but that does play a big role.
You had 50 Muslims at a school of 500, but most of the cheerleading team happened to be Muslim, and they wanted to put a scripture from there or a verse from there from the Quran on there. Would you have the same problem with it?
So what you're suggesting is that it's okay to suppress minorities because there's fewer.
No,
of
I'm
these
not
kids
saying
at
that.
School.
You're saying that's what I'm trying to get at. Is it the only reason? Is it because it's a majority view that it's wrong?
No, it's wrong. It's wrong on several levels. One level is wrong because you cannot use the authority of the school to promote your religion. It violates the Establishment Clause of the Constitution. The second reason it's wrong is because it's also coercive.
Yeah, and let me put it to you this way, and let me show you a different way, and it would be problematic. Let's use your example of a school that has a certain majority Christian and a certain minority Muslim. Let's change that. Let's make the school 50-50. The school's 50% Christian, 50% Muslim. But for some reason, the Muslim girls get elected. The cheerleading squad that gets elected is mostly Muslim. Okay, now they go out and put this proselytizing-looking sign with a Quran verse on there. Do you see the problem that could erupt from this now? Because now you have a completely divisive scripture up on that the players are running through. This can cause problems. This is why the sectarian thing is important, because now you're going to start all kinds of fights.
And this has been brought up, and this supports the Support the Kountze Kids Facebook page. And this commenter here just read in the local newspaper that schools in Ontario, Canada, are going to have Muslim prayer rooms. They are being demanded by Muslim students. We need to step up our fight to get our rights as Christians back, which their rights as Christians is to hold everyone else down.
Right.
Because someone else having a prayer room instantly takes away your right as being a Christian.
But I think the point is that it's perfectly the fact that this is coming from that group that supports the cheerleaders. They're supporting what the cheerleaders are doing. The irony is that they're supporting the complete integration of church and state when it comes to Christianity.
As long as it's Christianity.
And as soon as it once you've crossed that line, and now you're allowing church and state to commingle. Now, whenever it looks like there might be some Muslims that may now want special treatment.
Is somebody playing Money?
Are you brushing your teeth?
Money.
Huh? Get another cup of coffee.
Oh, it sounded like the intro loop for Money.
Good.
No, I'm getting some coffee.
Hey, make me some too while you're there.
I thought you were at the diner.
But yeah, we don't want to let Muslims. Now we're going to stomp on.
Well, that's
the minority religion or even the majority religion.
There's a question that most of us have been asked, more than once in multiple threads. I've seen it for all of us. If this was an Islamic group or a Hindu group or anyone else, would we have said anything? And I mean,
I would have said it if it were an atheist group.
Absolutely.
I think I would have.
But see, the thing is, it's really easy for them to say, "Well, no, we totally would let him in." I mean, come on,
that's what
but it's
stand up and think. No one's ever said anything. So
but they're saying, would we make an argument if it was one?
Would we make one?
Of course we would.
Because in their backwoods, narrow-minded brain. If you don't support Christianity, then you're a Muslim.
Yeah,
or you support
but that's
but
what.
Christianity.
Here's what gets me about that argument that we just read on the screen right there. That the rights.
By the way, that's an argument Brandon's brought to me too.
That the rights that they're discussing here are not their rights for free speech or freedom of religion. Their freedom of religion rights they're talking about here are the freedom to be the only religion.
Yeah, your rights end or your freedom ends where my rights begin.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
So,
and honestly, all of y'all's freedom ends anytime you're within visual proximity of me.
Of course, our
Right.
sexiness.
Are you packing?
Well,
I mean, what?
Right?
Well, you are our God. I mean,
Someone suggested that.
That is
actually.
true.
Oh God! What have I done with my life? I have the crappiest God ever.
Here's another gem.
Actually, no, you don't. Yours exists. You can prove objectively that.
Yeah, but I'm not proud of that.
Yeah, but he exists.
Yeah,
He's got a lot going for him.
And here's another great example of this, which is name withheld, picture withheld. Just wondering, do these folks at the Freedom From Religion Foundation also believe in gun control? I sure hope so.
Yeah, why would anyone be afraid of stepping up?
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't know. Yeah.
Anyone?
With veiled threats like that, why would anyone?
The kids at school especially, they're going to want to jump up there and stand up for themselves.
There's who said it right there.
Mole.
Pissed off Christian.
Right there. There's a pissed off one. Now this is I don't know if I showed this. This is a Houston school. The Bearcats. I don't know where.
That's another one of the Kountze things. That's another Kountze sign.
That's the most recent Kountze sign.
Actually, that was the first one, I think.
No, but the Kountze are not the Bearcats.
I know, but they're not. They're visiting that stadium.
I get you. Okay, all right.
So that was.
So
did
they? I guess they.
Who cares if the law is broken?
They polled all of the students
law.
in the Bearcat
Jesus
Stadium to make
rules.
sure that they weren't offending any
No,
of the
they
Bearcat
didn't.
students.
No, they did not.
No, of course they didn't.
Who cares if
But
there's a
it's-
law?
It's
Jesus rules.
Jesus rules.
Jesus
yeah.
rules. Oh, okay. So Jesus. Okay.
Yeah,
This guy
why
wants
not?
to promote.
So we don't
his,
have to have law or
orphanage.
law enforcement. Jesus
Yeah.
will go ahead and take care of all that
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah.
I'm going 800 miles an hour on the way home.
Yeah.
Impossible, sir.
Says
In the
you.
modern cars of
Says
today.
you.
And these comments just keep coming. A lot of people are posting just obviously love and support in these things. I'm having trouble going through each one and kind of seeing what they each have to say. But basically, this group is if you debate them in any way, and our friend Josh can attest to this.
Yeah.
It lasted all of about an hour, and was
I
booted
know some
out.
people that lasted 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have the longest running time holding a debate, which I'm proud of.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
actually.
yeah, I got an
Very
hour
nice.
in. Yeah.
So you either really held their attention or
Or
they
they
really
just
didn't know
weren't
you were
paying
debating them.
Here's Big Sandy Junior High cheerleaders are getting posters ready for the next home game to support the Kountze cheerleaders. There you go. There's evidence of other schools participating in this particular thing.
So I'm wondering, because Brandon said that what we should be doing is teaching these kids how to be more tolerant. Who's the one teaching that lesson? Who is it? Because it's not the parents apparently. So who is it, Brandon? Are you gonna teach all of these students?
That's what we should do. That's what I do with my kids.
Well, but you know what? You're not the arbiter of what every student and what every kid gets taught. So
It's commendable, though.
I mean, it's great for you.
Great. It's fantastic.
But it's what about the students that have these people for parents? The one who said that who suggested that anyone from the Freedom from Religion Foundation should wear a bulletproof vest, or the other one that seems to think that anyone
that one, he's probably not near as tough without his gun.
Well,
Exactly.
no, I
Well,
found
yeah.
that very few people are.
Yeah.
But or the one that suggests that that anyone who disagrees with this is a homosexual.
That one got me too.
Sounds like he goes to Westboro.
But I mean,
Westboro
but in all probability that those people are parents, Brandon. So
Yeah, that's sad.
Well, okay. So you now see the reason why there needs to be a
We don't
law.
get to decide who has kids. We just get to decide where we send kids that don't have parents.
Right, and when it's to a public school, you can't be sectarian. I mean, I think that's where it all breaks
Yeah,
down.
I mean, you can't.
If you want Jesus mentioned in a game, go to a private school.
That's right.
Kelly is right down the road, right? And they're a private school. Jesus-centered. Quit making our public schools a place to mention any God. I don't care which one. Even like Jerry said, a non-God is still wrong. We shouldn't be forcing these kids to believe in anything other than math, science, history, and unraveling the mysteries that all started with the Big Bang.
Bang.
I shouldn't have done that.
My challenge for years has been for any parent to avoid teaching their kid anything about religion until they're 18.
Oh, that'd be beautiful.
That
wouldn't
would
it?
be
I know,
amazing.
and then go, okay, here's my
Or
religion.
politics.
Here's my religion, and lay out every religion for them, and go, you make up your mind. But I don't think that's going to happen. It's not a realistic request.
How long does that conversation even go on? I mean, it goes on for 5 minutes, and they're like, seriously? If you're going to have that conversation, if you in this alternate world where people don't tell anybody about religion until they're 18,
Right, where people have some kind of sense.
make sure you don't have that conversation in a state that allows children to commit their parents.
Right.
Yeah, because you'll have a lot of parents in insane asylums.
You're just going to have to go as a parent. Okay, I'm not saying I believe this. I think that here's what other people believe.
And let me say it again. I'm not saying that I believe this.
Let me go on. Here's a book called the Bible. I didn't make this up.
You can't make some of that
Billions
stuff
of people believe this. It's not just me.
It's not just I didn't know. It's not me saying this. Look, just read this and tell me what you think. All right, are we? What do we got going on here?
We have so much to show, but
we do?
There's just so little time.
I think we better wrap it up. We've been going for quite some time.
We
on
should.
this one,
It looks
so.
like about an hour and a half here.
Yeah.
I hope the listeners aren't too bored with our meanderings.
Yeah, we are meandering a little bit, so I think that's why we should wrap it up. So.
But I think it's good. Thanks, Brandon, for
Yeah,
coming
Brandon,
in
thanks for calling in.
Well,
talking to
let
us
me
and-
ask him though. I mean, he was completely in defense of the situation. Where are you at now?
Final answer.
Final answer?
Where are
I'm
you at
still
on
in
this?
support of it.
You're still in support of it.
And we'll see what the court decides.
So you're none of the arguments that we made here, even though you couldn't answer them or refused to answer them, I guess, they weren't convincing at all.
No, you definitely gave me more to think about. But as it stands, I'm still where I'm at. But you have given me more to think about.
Okay.
Fair enough. I
Hey,
mean,
that's what we try.
that's
to
all
do
we
here.
can do is present the information and have the people decide to accept it or reject it. That's really all you can do is whatever we are.
Next time I'll try to give you way less to think about.
We'll focus. We'll focus on one or two things.
We're just gonna play cartoons next time. Don't worry.
So the court ruling now. Somebody said the court ruling comes down next week.
There's an injunction hearing. The temporary injunction hearing is next Thursday.
Next Thursday.
It's not definitive by any means. So
and so we're gonna find out then whether or not this can continue basically through the end of the
state court system,
or
it's currently in the state court system. So.
Right. So once it goes from here,
well, we'll determine what
well,
happens.
If they get their temporary injunction, or even if they don't, I don't know. If they get their temporary injunction, then they have to try for a permanent injunction, and that'll be way more definitive. As far as this Hardin
So this
County
is a
deal
temporary injunction hearing on the 4th.
Correct.
Do they hear both sides? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Because I didn't hear both sides.
No, they didn't.
they haven't. No, they just heard the restraining order side.
Okay.
That their free speech might be infringed
So
upon.
I guess a good
loudest side.
I guess a
Right.
good question here is how far does the district want to defend themselves on this?
Well, I don't know. I mean, they may have to, because as soon as they
got to go all the way.
if they allow it,
Yeah,
I mean, then they're now endorsing it.
correct.
So now they're
It's
actionable
a really
at this
good
point.
question on what they want to do. So
Ooh. I mean, I wouldn't want to be in their position.
no, I
at
would
all.
not either. I would not either.
Because I mean, they're going to have to spend money, I would think.
Well, the guy, the admin, is getting death threats. He's getting people cussing him out on the phone every
All
day.
from atheists, apparently.
I
All
get
from,
the
of course.
yeah.
yeah.
of course.
I get the impression he probably will lose his job.
You think so? That's
Most
really,
likely.
really sad. That's
Yeah.
really, really sad. And I don't think that. I mean, he did the right thing.
He
in this.
did what was in the best interest of the district,
Absolutely.
particularly in terms of saving the district money.
Yeah.
What else could he do? He
Yeah.
had to call
His
an
hands were
attorney,
tied, right.
call the district, and say and take their advice. What
Mm-hmm.
else could? What would they have him do?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Some of these parents would just have him break the law willfully,
even though he knows,
even against the legal counsel. And even against
See,
legal
see.
counsel, you know, and push it forward and let it go. And you know, I think that therein lies the problem.
Yeah, well,
So, we got a lot to think about coming up in the next few weeks, and we're going to be obviously keeping abreast to this and keeping abreast or two on this issue.
yeah. So we'll try to keep you appraised. We'll see what we can do next week.
Sure. Next
Yeah,
week
we're
will
good.
be interesting.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up. Brandon, once again, thanks for Skyping it in, bro.
Yes. Thank you very much.
And Josh, thank you for being with us.
Yep.
And
Because I provided so much conversation.
yeah, well, hey, you know,
You were here, man.
You
That's
did
all
lend
that
some
counts.
support. Yeah.
You were here.
You're not just another pretty face.
Well, that's for
not
sure.
at all.
Not at all. yeah.
No,
I wouldn't give him any of
not
that.
in the least.
Take all that from him.
So, for Will and Vic, I'm Jerry. Thanks for watching / listening, everybody. Have a good night. Peace.